I don't know about you, Simon. Over the weekend, certainly Friday, Saturday, I was watching a lot of the coverage of this. It almost got hysterical. Some Tottenham-loving media people were really overdoing it. I mean, there's life after Kane. There's life after any player.
Well, of course there is. I mean, the currency at Tottenham Hotspur at this moment in time is that the last 2 years have been a bit of a debacle. You've had someone being taken out, an elite manager in Jose Mourinho being taken out on the eve of a cup final. You've had Conte come in and behave in a way that I don't think is representative of his status as an elite manager. I'm sure he's had his challenges. I'm sure he had his personal issues with all kinds of things that were going on in the background of his personal life. But he was a professional man that decided that he didn't like the place he was in and decided to set it on fire. Now, Daniel Levy is culpable for some of that. Of course he is. This idea that I will not castigate Daniel for some of the things he's done. The choices are his. He made the choice for Conte. He made the choice for Mourinho. So he's culpable for them. They're also culpable for the constant carping on of the culture inside a football club. They did nothing to change. Conte was saying the same things 18 months later about the culture in a football club that Mourinho was saying. And what have you been doing for the last 18 months then? You're part of that equation. The Harry Kane situation is an inevitability. Some would say it's a miracle that you kept him that long. I mean, you're a side that's trying to compete economically with some powerhouses in football that are spending enormous amounts of money, and Tottenham aren't built from that model. It's not Daniel Levy's money, it was Joe Lewis's money. And if Joe Lewis isn't going to give Daniel Levy any more money, then Daniel Levy's not going to rub his hands together and magic it up. He's going to have to magic it up out of the revenues of the football club.
Yeah.
And once upon a time, there was an argument suggesting that when Tottenham Hotspur made world record profits about 4 or 5 years ago, that a lot was going right. Now, of course, it's not going so well on the pitch, and of course the narrative spills, and the Levy crowd that don't like him want him out. I don't think it's constructive. I don't think it's going to help anybody. I don't think it's going to achieve anything. But I also think with Postecoglou, this is not a child. This is a 57-year-old manager that's been around, knows what he's looking at, and would have walked in the door, I would imagine, with an equitable swap, i.e. Tottenham wanted him and he wanted them, and would have had his eyes opened. And I actually think there's a part of him, and I know this is probably going to be greeted with a degree of disdain, that was moderately relaxed about whether Harry Kane stayed or didn't stay. Ultimately, you don't want to lose 30 goals from your team, but there was also a style of play that he might want to play that might not have lent itself to the way that Harry Kane's attributes are best served.
I think you've described it perfectly. He looked moderately relaxed. I think Simon's bang on the money with Ange.
Well,
would you not have been the same? How could you be any different?
No,
man?
I'm not terribly sure about that. I think that if you're stepping into a job here, you want to be successful, and you know that you have to get off to a reasonably decent start. That's most managers. They're getting less and less time now. And you're going to be judged by pretty early results in terms of your style of play for a start, which is a nice thing, but also in terms of results. And your best chance of getting results is by a proven player. And you are wanting to keep this player at the football club. Now, as you step in, and maybe Daniel Levy said to Ange immediately, by the way, there's a fairly decent chance he's going to leave, that Harry Kane is going to leave the football club. And Ange would, as I mentioned earlier, would be aware of that.
He said it, didn't he?
He
said it from the outset. He said
it for a while.
The first conversation he had with Harry Kane, so he knew it.
So he knew it. That's fine. I'm not so sure that relaxes on, because what you're thinking about, well, how do I get a replacement? Is Richarlison going to be the answer? I'm going to give him an opportunity. Is he going to be the answer at this minute? He should be, because he's a top quality international player. Has yet to prove it yet at Tottenham Hotspur at the moment. Yeah. But these are the things that be going through your mind, and each day ticks down. You think to yourself, well, what will happen, because the 1st of September arrives? I've got nothing. I've got nothing else.
Like you. As an experienced manager, that's not one of those that bats his eyes and jumps at the first opportunity, right? He came in with a degree of people being vitriolic about who he was and what he was, right? And where's he done and what's he done? And everyone now understands this is a decent manager with an antipode and outlook that's managed Celtic very well and shown an outlook and an attitude. He would have priced this into his thinking when the first conversation he has with Daniel Levy is, where am I in this conversation, right? If I'm joining Tottenham Hotspur and I'm coming into this space and I've got a whole raft of challenges. I've got a background noise against you. I've got a background noise against the team's performance. I've got a background noise against the style of play. And I've got my best player centre forward potentially out the door. Where's that conversation? And they would have been told there's a distinct possibility he's going to be going.
Yeah.
Right? So when I say relaxed, I don't mean you're sitting back with a cigar on. I mean that you've priced it into your thinking.
Yes,
so you know what the solutions are going to be. Yeah. You've lost 30 goals. So now you're going to start building a side around the footprint that you want to put on it. And this clearly has to be a long-term project because they've given him a 4-year contract on the outset. Normally they don't do that. They don't give managers 4-year contracts, and Spurs have given him this. So unless he's dreadful, unless he really is not fit for purpose, unless you find himself in a situation where you've got a Nathan Jones moment, or you've got a Graham Potter situation. I'm not suggesting Potter can't come again, but in the incarnation of Chelsea, he was out of his depth. If Postecoglou isn't out of his depth, he's going to be given his head. I didn't see much that I liked from Tottenham yesterday, to be honest. I thought they were very easy to play against and very ponderous, but that will come, I suspect, over a period of time.
And he's got time, Martin. It's the 14th of August. He's got time to get the replacement in. It's not going to be like for like with Kane.
No, that's true. But fun enough, as a football manager, you think the 14th of August, suddenly the 21st is upon you. You haven't done anything, and then suddenly the 27th, and you're looking around and you are wondering whether you're going to get the replacement in. Right. I accept what Simon has said, and you've obviously agreed with him, and I do. So the idea that that Ange will start to be thinking about getting some sort of replacement in at a certain price, of course, like everything else. But overall, I would have tried my best as a manager stepping into the job to try and keep him. But remarkably, I had a similar situation when I went to Celtic. Mark Rudiger wanted to leave the football club. Nothing at all to do with me. But Mark decided, because he had an argument with the chief executive, that he didn't want to play for Celtic anymore. And I tried over the phone, I must admit, because I didn't actually meet him. He was in Australia at the time. It might have been difficult. But he said, no, absolutely no chance of going. Therefore, then my thinking process was, I need a replacement. And of course, Chris Sutton came in and did brilliantly.
Spurs have spent.
What's a bad replacement?
He was fantastic.
Spurs have spent 193 million euros so far this summer against an incoming of about 120. The previous time they got a whole bunch of money in their hands, they gave it to Andreas Villas-Boas, and he turned it to dust. Right. And that will have scarred Daniel Levy, because he probably allowed a lot more influence from manager at that time than some would suggest he does going forward. In this instance, I think...
Oh, sorry, can I stop you? Did you say that you were going to tone it down a little bit in terms of criticism? Right, okay.
That's not criticism.
That was at 4 minutes past 10.
It's a creative observation.
That was at 4 minutes past 10.
But it's universally accepted that the spend pattern as a result of the Gareth Bale transfer was... wasted. They bought a lot of players that have gone on and been successful to some extent elsewhere, but they weren't successful with that spend pattern. They've now gone and delivered another big outcome, which is Kane. Not the ideal situation for them, but the reality is you've just sold a player for 100 million with a year to go on his contract. So in real terms, you've done all right out of it. And now how you redeploy that money is very, very important, because some of these players that they're paying money for now are already in the minds of Tottenham fans on their books. They've already had the right winger on their books, and now they've got to pay for him. So it gets booked into this year's transfer fees, and it looks like a good spend for Spurs, but the Spurs fans are going, well, we've been looking at him for a year. Fine, we want to see someone else to look at as well, and that's the conundrum that they've got to get past. But I genuinely think that Postecoglou will be all right. And I genuinely think that they will change the style of play. It'll be far more... You could see from Spurs yesterday, they were already playing 10, 15 yards further up the pitch than they were playing under Conte. Whether that translates into a side that's going to win anything, I doubt it this season, but I just got an optimistic feel that Spurs will be more competitive than the background noise suggests.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the TalkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. TalkSPORT.